You ready? You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, gays and gays. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you're having a great night, weekend, whenever you're checking this out. I've got our first review in the Real Spooky series for this year for the first Scream movie, which I actually just watched for the first time last week, in large part because of my incredible guest. I have known this young gentleman since, oh God, I'm gonna date myself. At least 20 years, which is, oh God, I'm getting old. But he is an avid movie watcher, pro wrestling fanatic, a Scream fanatic, generous lover, I'd imagine. Got my friend Buck here. Buck, how you doing, sir?
Oh, hey, thank you so much for having me on. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
well, thanks for being on, man.
Uh, the second you told me you wanted to watch these movies and have me review it, I was set. Time and place, and I am just tell me the time and place, and I would be ready to do this.
So I'm really happy you're on because I know you have way more to say about where your love from these films comes from, but I will simply say I've seen the first two. We're reviewing Scream, just the first one tonight, but I had never seen these. And this is always that movie I would pass by when Hollywood Video was still a thing, and I'd go like, "Man, I should watch that at some point," and then go, let's rent." I don't know if the fuck I was renting. God, anyway. So like I was
Pootie
renting.
Tang.
Sure,
Definitely renting Pootie Tang.
Yeah, hey, Pootie Tang's great, but yeah, back in the Hollywood Video days, I would always walk past and I'd see all the Scream movies. I'd go, man, I should probably watch those at some point. And Wes Craven has done a lot of shit I like. Just going through his filmography, it's like, goddamn, he's like. So I think Red Eye is criminally underrated. I fucking adore Red Eye. I think that movie kicks ass. I don't think enough people talk about that film enough. I will defend Vampire Brooklyn. I think Vampire in Brooklyn is great. It's dumb. I don't care. I think it's wonderful. But then he also did, of course, he did the most of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I know that's where most people.
The good ones.
Yeah, there's been a lot of those. I was like kind of looking through. I was like, yeah, there's quite a few of those. Of course, he was also in Jade Silent Bob Strike Back, which is his best work, obviously.
Obviously.
But Wes Craven's a talented motherfucker, and when you think about where the horror franchise is now, when you think about outputs from, I mean, Blumhouse is probably the standard at this point. And Blumhouse puts out some incredible shit. Hollywood Ends is not included in that, but Blumhouse puts out a lot of good shit. And when you think,
sorry, I apologize.
No, good.
I will say horror films would not be where they're at today if it wasn't for the Scream movies.
And that's exactly where I was leading. Like Blumhouse and like A24 with a lot of their horror and like Neon, all those indie companies that I will admit I am a huge mark for for all three of those companies. But to see the influences that Scream has clearly had on horror after watching the first two, it's like, oh, I get now why people are always going this like was a shot of adrenaline that the horror franchise that the horror genre needed in the mid 90s. Because I was talking to my friend about this off mic, and I think we can kind of have this discussion about it. As much as I love them comic book movies, and if you listen to the podcast, I do, but there's no genre that hits for me when it's done correctly like horror and sci-fi do. Like when you get a great horror movie, like I just watched X, which I have not uploaded that review, but X kicks so much ass. But when you get a great horror movie and you go, oh my God, this is how you fucking do this shit. Like, thank you for not fucking this up. But then, when you get a bad horror movie, it's just, it makes you want to curl up in a ball and wonder why you even support the genre in the first place. So,
well, that depends, because there are so many bad horror movies that are worth watching because they're hilarious. But I will agree, if done correctly, a horror film There is nothing like a good horror film that just catches you if it's done correctly. And Scream, it isn't the first horror movie I ever saw, but it is one that resonated to like I still remember what house I was in, what room I was in. I remember it just resonated with me that much.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I forgot that Craven did the first thing he did was Last House on the Left, which is an insane debut when you think about it. I mean, that's a movie I think people are just uncomfortable watching, and I get why. But you want to talk about some people who absolutely deserved all the smoke that they got? Holy shit, that is one of those movies where you go, oh man, this is. I mean, to start your career with Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes, that's kind of fucking awesome, honestly. So,
Yeah, horror movies that absolutely make my skin crawl are ones where people break into people's houses and torture them. Like I
yeah,
can't watch those. Like those just get to me because of how realistic those can be.
yeah, that's why I personally stay away from supernatural horror. Like if a TV starts floating or something, I'm like, yep, fuck this. Like I can't do shit like that. I want to get, but getting in the Scream. So it was really fun because as I was watching these movies, I was kind of like I was basically like live chatting you or Facebook messaging you like my reactions in real time. And
Mhm.
one thing I have to just get out of the way that is really funny to me is that the Scary Movie franchise fucked with me for the initial opening of this movie because I've seen Scary Movie so many times and how they do the whole parody of Casey getting killed, but it's oh what's her name, Carmen Electra, I think.
Yes, Carmen
Yeah,
Electra.
but it's Carmen Electra in Scary Movie, getting killed, and her implant gets stabbed. That was actually really funny, but it's to watch the actual version of what's being spoofed. There's nothing funny about this shit at all.
Mm.
Like, it was like, oh no, this
No,
is
that opening scene is straight up freaking horrifying.
yeah.
There was no element of, even though the Scream movie has elements of humor in it, there is nothing humorous about that first scene.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. So we open up with Drew Barrymore. It's crazy to see how like I think most of the people in these movies have aged really well. Matthew Lillard especially, and we'll get to the other people, but to see Drew Barrymore, blonde Drew Barrymore, which is just kind of a trip, but to see her, just hanging out, answers her phone, of course we know who's on the phone. It's Ghostface, but I love how it goes from kind of oh, you never told me your name because I want to know who I'm looking at, like that, like, which is a dick move, by the way, on the part of Ghostface, just to drag this shit out. Because unfortunately, the movie does a really, and not even unfortunately, but the film does a really good job of making you think that she actually might get away. And she's as close to getting away as you could get to getting away with
Mm.
not getting away. And that in particular, the way that scene is framed,
Yeah,
it's
that tugs at your heart a little.
it really does because she's so close to her parents. You're like, oh my god, she's good. Like they're gonna recognize her, they're gonna hear her voice, and she'll be okay. And nah, the movie just snatches that hope away from me, and you go, oh well, fuck, okay. One thing
So,
I oh
sorry.
good, no, you're good, good.
So first little tidbit about this movie, going back to Scary Movie. Scream's original title was Scary Movie.
Oh, that's funny.
They changed it to Scream by the time they released the movie.
That's really oh, that's ironic. Okay, I love that. So I know you said that this wasn't like your first scary movie, but this is one of the first ones that really stuck with you. For me, it would be Silence of the Lambs. When I was 5, I saw that, which I had no reason to be watching that shit when I was 5, but that movie in particular stuck with me. I was so happy after watching this because I've had movies like Napoleon Dynamite is one that immediately comes to mind where I've had it quoted at me so much or it's been referenced so much around me that by the time I finally got around to watching it, I was like, yeah, all right. Like, cool people like this. It's just not for me. When I was done watching this, I was like, I'm so happy I watched this. Like, because there's nothing worse than feeling like my time is wasted watching a movie and just going like, I'll show you. I'm gonna give you a low grade. But But watching this the whole time, and we'll kind of jump. We're gonna jump around here, people, because Scream. But Nev Campbell. So first off, Nev Campbell can still get it. I fucking love Nev Campbell. I think she's fucking amazing. I
She
think
is the best final girl in horror cinema, by the way.
you really like you'd say some more so
Her
than
and Jamie Lee
Lauren.
Curtis,
Okay.
definitely the top two.
'Cause I was gonna say I feel like it's those two and then everybody else. But I was so happy to see her in this. And again, she's aged wonderfully. But you think about, I remember loving her from Party of Five. Like I like again to date myself here, but I loved her so much on that show that I was so happy to see that she continued to do the Scream stuff. And
Party of Five. I've never seen it.
I don't
I,
believe
I was out having a life.
I got that. That's rude. But I love her in this. And the thing that's so depressing about this movie is that she's very much trying to tell people that bad shit is going on, and everyone's kind of just very lackadaisical. Not everyone, but a lot of people are just kind of lackadaisical about it. Like, oh come on, it's only a couple people have been killed, which even saying that out loud should be, an immediate red flag. But
It's the '90s. It was a different time.
right, but when you find out what happened, because I didn't know. So when I say I didn't know anything about the Scream movies, I don't know who any of the killers. I didn't know who any of the killers were up until the fourth movie, and someone randomly spoiled it for me the other day, which I was just like, "Thank you!" Like, God damn it!
Oh
But
no, they revealed the fourth kill, the
yeah,
number four. Four's
yeah,
actually, I loved how they did the killer for four. No
yeah,
spoilers for it, but four, I
yeah.
thought four was epic.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled here. I was just like, gosh dang it. But I didn't know who the killers were in this one. I didn't know who the killer was in two. I was like, I mean, I guessed the one and two. I did guess the ones here. But the thing is, that's not the point. The point is how you get there and the journey for this movie
Oh
between
yeah,
between Sydney and her boyfriend Billy, who's played by Skeet
Ulrich,
Ehrlich. With that, God's a
Ulrich,
is it
Ulrich,
Ulrich? God,
Ulrich.
that's a porn sounding name, Skeet Ulrich. Like, so he immediately
Poor
was
man, poor man's Johnny Depp.
I oh I mean, well, I would say if he hadn't sued, he'd be just Johnny Depp. But I guess you're right there. But Billy immediately was giving me those vibes of someone who'd go like, and maybe it's because I've been watching a lot of that '70s show, but it's like, oh, here's a purity ring. You know what I mean? And he'd be like fucking girls like in the in like bathrooms and shit, like like while you're like when you're out of town or something. Like he just seemed like such a piece of shit, pretty pretty much from early on. And I think the movie does a good job though of throwing you off the scent of him just enough so that you're always questioning it. Because there are points where you're kind of going, huh, maybe he actually does give a shit about her and does actually care. But from that opening scene of him being like, basically being like, how we could really express our love, baby. Like, and I will say the one complaint before I throw it back to you that I really have about this movie, the cover of Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult while he's trying to fuck Nev Campbell, my brain could not handle it. I was just like I was my skin was crawling in not a good way. I was like, oh, I don't like this at all.
So I love the cover just because I associate it with the movie, and the movie just has always been such a big part of my life. But I can understand someone listening to it as an adult and being like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
What I will also say is them doing a cover of Don't Fear the Reaper is a real big red herring for he's the killer. If you like know the subtext of Don't Fear the Reaper,
That's
because
a
it's a
fair point.
really dark, messed up song.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. Like
The movie is chock full of red herrings, and that's kind of when I saw it. I think I was like 9 or 10 the first time I saw it. So like you don't know to look for that kind of thing when you're a kid.
yeah,
But
of
like
course not.
as I grew older and watched all the movies and rewatched all the movies over and over, just the little things you look for while trying to think who the killer is. And without jumping too far ahead, uh, Billy being the killer, it seemed too obvious because of how creepy and serious they made him. But them doing the twist where there were two killers, during that time, like no one thought there was going to be two killers. Like you couldn't wrap your mind around that back in the day.
True, which
Every
is
movie after that, you're expecting it, but that first one, when Matthew Lillard goes and pulls out the voice modulator, and Ski Ulrich has already revealed he's the killer, people lost their freaking mind at that.
well, it's crazy because to your point, yeah, now your brain is kind of conditioned to think there could potentially be more than one killer. But you think about, Freddy Krueger, one person, Jason, one person, Michael
Mm-hmm.
Myers, one person. And obviously I know there's that one dumb Halloween where he has an apprentice, whatever, doesn't fucking matter. Shut up. But but most of the time it is just one person. So to your point, while sitting there going, wait a minute, is there two? Oh my god, there is two. And it's a very pleasant, I mean, as pleasant as this movie can be given the circumstances, but it's actually really cool because then it started making me think of I immediately thought of Hot Fuzz. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Any luck catching them killers yet? It's just the one
Yeah.
killer.
Yeah, and I went, oh god damn it. Okay, Edgar, right? And again, that's an influence directly from fucking Scream. I'm like, that's so cool. But I know I mentioned Nev Campbell earlier. So there is a purity to Nev Campbell's performance early on in the beginning when she's thrown this ridiculous curveball. And I don't know about where this ends up as far as her family history because I haven't watched Scream 3 yet. I Everyone tells me that's where the honeymoon ends, so we'll see. I'll get to it here at some point. But
If I were you, just straight up, I'd watch three and I'd watch 4 and 5, and then maybe later down the line, like after you've taken a break, watch three and just try and think of it as like an independent done movie that isn't in the Scream series because it's nothing like the rest of them.
okay,
Like if it was named anything other than Scream, it
yeah,
would have been a decent movie. But because of the diehard Scream fans, me being one of them, watching it going like, no, that's stupid. No, that's stupid. This is not what the Scream movies are supposed to be like. And there's plenty of reasons for why Scream 3 failed so badly, like legitimate reasons why it failed. Mostly because they had to rewrite the script in like 30 days. It's like an insane amount of time, like completely redid the movie, but in general, it is a just crap movie.
yeah. I've definitely heard people echo what you said, but I had no idea what happened with Sydney's mom. Uh, at least as far as what the movie tells us here. And when you find out what happened, it's like it's such a oh fuck, seriously? Like it's a dark fucking turn that it takes with her mom that again in the 90s, I just don't think we were getting shit like this. Like when I think about stuff that kind of for lack of a better term warped my brain as far as like shit that scared me. I still remember that X-Files episode Home where I remember going, "Oh, I just want to curl in a ball and forget the world exists for like a year." Like I
God, you are outing yourself as an old ass man.
yeah, right. I know. It's like back when they would ban shit on TV. but I remember watching that and going, "Oh man, that really fucked me up." And as I was watching this, I just want to give Sydney a hug. Like no creepy ulterior motives attached. I was just like, girl, you're just going through the ringer, and I just like you just need to be held. Like, god damn it. Like it was actually making me angry how just there's a point where she's in the restroom and this fucking preppy cheerleader cunt
Oh, the
comes out
bitches.
and oh my god, I wanted to jump through that screen and just go, who fucking raised you? Because it's such a vile interaction that this cheerleader has with this girl talking about how Sydney's probably a slut just like your mom was, and you're just like, why? Like, what is this accomplishing? Why are you so, to quote Taylor Swift, why you gotta be so mean? Like it's just but it really does break your heart, and Sydney Neff Campbell gets that across so beautifully, and there are points where she needs to be vulnerable, she needs to be sad, and then there's these points later on, as the film reaches its climax, where she gets pissed off, she gets angry, she's sick of being victimized, and you really root for her in a way that I was like sitting here watching going, yeah, Sydney, go ahead. I was like, oh wow, I'm
Well,
cheering for this movie, fuck yeah.
through the five movies, her character arc and just how her toughness and resolve is incredible. Because the first movie, she's absolutely a victim, and at the end of the movie, I mean, she doesn't die. She kills the two killers, but like you wouldn't say she's a badass or anything necessarily. By like number five, she's full blown like do not fuck with Sidney Prescott.
Yeah, it really actually kind of reminded me of the latest uh Tomb Raider trilogy of games, where it's like, okay, the first one is Laura kind of getting her ass kicked, and you going, oh man, like she just kind of wants to, explore tombs and find random rocks and shit. But then you get to, the second one, she's a full on, like she's very confident in herself. And when we get to Scream 2, we'll talk about that more. But getting to the other characters in this, okay, so I will be the first to admit, because we're both wrestling fans, I watched the documentary "You Cannot Kill David Arquette." That review's up on the channel now, by the way, people. I'm such a fan of his just off his wrestling alone, and for what he was willing to put his body through, like that takes a brass set what he's done just as an indie wrestler, and I give him all the credit in the world. But
Shout out Nick Gage.
yeah. Good job, Nick. You almost killed David Arquette. But between that and then he is such a he's really charming in this. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting like I was not expecting David Arquette to kind of hit for me the way he did.
Because as a person, he's kind of a goofball.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's the nice way of putting it.
Yeah, he's a bit of a goober, but I mean, but he seems like a nice guy though. Like at worst, he seems like a nice guy. And
Yeah.
but it was actually really cool to see him playing this, Deputy Dewey. Whenever I hear the word Dewey, I just immediately think Dewey Cox. I just start laughing. But seeing David Arquette in this role, it's interesting how he's trying to prove himself and not be a joke. And it's kind of like those. It's kind of like how kids are like, we're gonna start a kids detective agency, and then shit gets real, and they're like, oh fuck, we need this much trouble. Like it's fascinating how he's thrown into the fire in that way with this serial killer who, as we mentioned earlier, kind of starts off as it was one murder, it's fine, whatever, and then that shit hits the high school, and you go, oh, this is bad. We all need to actually be fucking concerned. And there's a level of panic that Dewey's kind of always in as far as wanting to protect Sydney. I really appreciate that level of gravitas that Arquette brings to it. And uh, a bit of a spoiler for Scream 2. Straight up, he might be my favorite character outside of Sydney in the second one. I think it's actually, oh god, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's bordering on award worthy as far as Arquette's performance in Scream 2. Like I was shocked at how much I loved Arquette in Scream 2. But
so in general, I am not a David Arquette fan of him as an actor.
Me neither.
In these movies, he's actually really acts and he's not just most David Arquette movies you're just like, oh, that's David Arquette playing David Arquette being a goober. This movie, he's playing a role in the series, and he nails it, every single one of them.
Yeah, I was genuinely impressed, and I was like, son of a bitch, man. Okay, like credit where it's due. Okay,
Little fact I'm gonna drop as well.
Yeah.
The original copy of Scream, that was the tester that was aired. Dewey dies. The crowds disliked it so much that Wes Craven decided to change his mind.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. I actually really like that because it would have felt bad to actually kill him in here, because that is one thing I will say about this movie too. man, don't get attached to people because it's
Nope.
like, because yeah, I was like, God, am I watching Game of Thrones? Holy shit! Like anytime I was like, oh, you might be cool. Oh, I should probably not get attached to you, should I? Because
Without spoiling a whole lot in the series for anyone who might watch later. Two th- two things going into any Scream movies. One, don't get attached to anyone, and two, if there's a new character, they'll be the killer.
yeah, fair. I oh, what's his name? Is Harry Winkler is in this one? Was it
Henry
for
Henry Winkler, the
yeah,
Fonz.
the Fonz. Of course he's on Barry now, and if you have not watched Barry, people, please watch Barry. He's fucking incredible on there. I was so happy to see him, and one thing I actually, and I mean love about this movie is that you're getting deaths in the daytime, and that's something that again,
Doesn't happen.
yeah, like
Never
really
heard
doesn't
of.
happen at all very often. So to actually, because you know the whole horror conceit is, oh, you know, it's daytime, I'm safe. And there are several kills that happen in daytime, and every daytime kill is actually probably more brutal than the nighttime ones. I was like, oh my God, because when when the Fonz gets it, he
Uh,
fucking gets it in a way I was like, oh, what the fuck? No. And and Wes Craven, because he was a brilliant son of a bitch. He was very great at just teasing the tension, fucking with the camera just a little bit, and you're just kind of like in that, you know, it's like you're playing Arkham, like an Arkham game. You're like, okay, why is my blood pressure raising? Oh God, what did you do? And then Ghostface, you're like, God damn, like the scene I
and
mentioned
the score too.
is
The score
excellent.
just fucked with you.
Yeah, who did the score on this?
I do not know. I know the
Really? Okay.
soundtracks. I don't know the scores.
Okay, let
They
me see.
they didn't release the actual score until like 20 like 20 like 2020 when they released them all on vinyl. I don't recall the name of the composer, but it is the same composer
Oh,
for all the movies.
him. Okay, so Marco Beltrami is the
Yes.
one who did the score. So he's done quite a few things I like actually. So he did the score for Blade 2, which kicks fucking ass. Did the score for Ford v Ferrari. Did the score for the 310 to Yuma remake, and then Screams 1, 2, 3, and 4. Um, Man, he's done a lot of shit I actually like. Did the score for Logan? God damn.
Yeah,
Wolverine.
and
Fuck. Okay.
the score for the Scream movies is just done so well because it has you on edge when you hear that score because you know something is around the corner when you've got no music and just that little background score, like, okay, someone's gonna get it.
Yeah, and I have to give this movie a ton of credit for something else. I am not a fan of Jamie Kennedy unless he's rolling with Saget for the most part, or if he,
Night Michelle.
yeah, 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 R.I.P. Bob Saget, and or if he's you know, in Malibu and he's wanted the most. But outside of that, I could give a shit about Jamie Kennedy. I remember when the Jamie Kennedy experiment was on, I was like, God, I don't think this guy's funny at all. Like
You
he
mean
just
less funny punked?
I actually, wow, yeah, actually, you're exactly right, Archie. But yeah, Jamie Kennedy's never done it for me. I've never liked him. It is an incredible feat that they actually made me like Randy in these movies. I was like, wow, I'm Wes Craven. I didn't know you're a sorcerer too. because,
Well, I think what's likable about Jamie Kennedy in these movies, specifically the first one, is if you're watching these movies, uh, you're probably someone who's really into movies, and Randy's way into horror movies, so you just instantly relate to him and hope, well, I hope he's not the killer, and I also hope he doesn't get killed.
yeah, and I will be the first to admit I was definitely like projecting phrasing onto Jamie Kennedy phrasing in that way because it's like, okay, he's bringing down these, you know, very classic horror tropes, but the movie's also like inform you like, yeah, these are the rules like in theory, but are we gonna abide by them? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Like you know, it's very clever in the way that's done. I
Yeah,
did
Hunter, I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, damn it! I'm so sad. It's fine. Yeah, I adored him in the movie. Like, I thought he did a great job. One thing that really did actually catch me off guard. So, I mean, Ghostface is killing people. Obviously, Ghostface sucks just off that alone. But Ghostface, there's nothing worse than knowing you're gonna get killed and someone's talking shit to you like right before they're gonna do it. Because some of the lines Ghostface has in here, I went, "Wow, you're a fucking asshole." He of course ends up calling Sydney, and Sydney plays it off like, yeah, bullshit, this is you. And just from fucking nowhere, he goes, if you hang up on me, you'll die just like your mother. And I pulled a black person like a motherfucker. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what is your problem? But he's doing shit like that constantly. And
So a lot of the theories is the phone calls being made before any killings happen is Billy, Skeet Ulrich character, doing the calls because Billy's the psychopath of the two. Stu is just someone who falls to peer pressure and is doing what his friend does, which is way fucked up and like still speaks volumes that could happen to this day. But Billy is the true, like, complete nutbag, unhinged character. So every time, like, the call
okay.
during the call to Casey, the call to Sydney when she's at her house, those are clearly Billy because he just snaps during those calls.
Yeah, that's interesting. That actually makes a ton of sense because there is this gear that Ghostface does hit when he's getting pissed, and you're like, oh wow, this was funny for half a second, and then shit just got really dark really quick. And it's actually fat. That's a really fast. I mean, that does hold up with how the way the movie presents itself.
Another fun part of the Scream movies, like once you've watched them and like you want to go and rewatch them, try and like pick out like so. Obviously, the majority of the Scream movies have two killers, so like you can watch and be like, okay, maybe this scene was this killer and that scene's that killer, and it's just fun to speculate. Some of it is only ever going to be speculation, and some of it is just like, oh, that makes no logistical sense for him to be here because he was there at this point, so that's clearly the other killer. But that's one of the things I enjoy watching, and you can always catch new little things like that when you rewatch for the next few times.
That's good to know. So going through just a few more things here. We haven't mentioned Gail yet, who's played Gail Weathers, who's of course played by Courtney Cox. One thing is, oh, I'm sorry, you have a cough there.
Yes, I apologize. Dry throat.
Right, yeah, it happens. So it's really funny. Courtney Cox, like, so back in the '90s when everyone was like, "Oh my God, Jennifer Aniston's so hot on Friends," and Courtney Cox too. Neither one of them ever did anything for me. I was just like, yeah, whatever. I think Courtney Cox has aged like a fine wine. I think I was one of the few people who watched that show Dirt that was on FX, like when FX was first getting started. I really liked that show, and I enjoyed Cougar Town quite a bit. But it was actually really cool to see Courtney Cox play a character with a mean streak because Gail is such a cunt. Like, he's a cunt in a way that that there'd be a tornado, and you hear people screaming as their houses are getting destroyed. She's like, no, no, get closer, get closer. And her cameraman, Kenny the cameraman, who's played by W. Earl Brown, the way Ghostface gets him was something I went, damn. Like you would have thought Kenny the cameraman kicked Ghostface's dog or something like that. Cause that kill felt in particularly personal.
Yeah, he did Kenny dirty.
Like really dirty. Like in a way that I genuinely wasn't expecting. And I think to your point, talking about how we have two killers, I love the fact that as the kills kind of go on, they do it almost feels like not like Ghostface wants to get caught, but he's almost like insulted that he's not being taken as a bigger threat. And so those kills do feel way more intense. And this is coming from the first kill where Casey's like fucking hung up and shit. And you're like, oh my fucking God.
Actually, the first kill was actually Casey's boyfriend.
Oh,
So,
you're right. Fair enough.
and,
All
and,
right.
technically, even though it wasn't on screen, the first kill was Sydney's mom,
Oh
Marie.
my god. All right, Poindexter. But
Not that I care or know anything about these movies or
no, no,
anything.
no, nope. That is
Whatever,
nope, nope.
whatever.
That is completely fair. But Gail in particular, for the way that she's willing to, and I think that's the part, or that's one of the themes for me that sucks. And I mean this is a compliment because the way that I mean, God, we look at the media cycle now and how the 24-hour news cycle is one of the worst things that's happened. Actually, when we backtrack, it is the worst thing that's happened to journalism because everything is sensationalized to such a degree, and Gale is like the personification of that. And it's really interesting that this came out in 96, and 26 years later it's still relevant, and it's actually depressing as fuck when you think about it. And when you see how Gale is willing to use Sydney's mother's memory. I mean, fuck, she writes a book on her, and you're just like, wow, that's fucking grim as hell. And the way that at a point Sydney just decks her, first off, justified as fuck, by the way. But the way that Gail's like, if I didn't do this, someone else would. I went, that is like the most insane like line of logic that you can, because you can use that shit for anything. Like, oh man, I was gonna rob this bank, someone else would have. Like, but
Now,
it's yeah.
we are not advocates of violence,
No,
but
no, no.
the first punch, and it is not the last one, but the first punch Sydney throws at Gale, so satisfying.
Oh yeah, it's I definitely stood up like man. I'm not gonna lie, I freaked out like when David Blaine does magic in front of black people. I was like, it's like yeah, but as far as the kills, since we're talking about the kills, so Rose McGowan, who God breaks my, I used to love Rose McGowan, then she went nuts, just shame, but she plays Tatum in this movie, and man, her kill is just her kill
So good,
sucks. Her kill
so
fucking
good.
sucks. Like it is one of those kills where you go, like, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I definitely looked at my garage door a little closer the other day. Because
Now,
that's one.
let's clarify. It sucked that her character died. The way she got killed was fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, no, the cleverness of the kill, admittedly, and that's the thing about Ghostface. Like it feels like that old Punisher game like those like on Xbox where you could just kill criminals in like the most vile ways humanly possible. Like it felt like Ghost Killer just or Ghostface Killer being in this would have been great, but it's interesting how Ghostface is like, oh man, I could stab you, like I'm gonna stab you, but let's make this fun for me too because Tatum,
Almost like he's getting bored of using a knife, and sometimes he has to
yeah,
do something else.
like he has a knife there obviously if he's in a pinch, but it's like, oh, can I use my environment, can I use the environment to kill you in a way more gruesome way?
Kind of like the Friday the 13th video game for PS4 and Switch and all that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like I could kill you with my bare hands, but there's some stuff around here that will make it even more gruesome.
I know we're not reviewing Scream 2, but there's a point where Ghostface just throws this person off a roof, and I went, "Wow, that fucking sucks." Like it wasn't clever, but he's like, "Yep, I'm over you." Like, whoop, there you go. But but getting to the kind of the reveal of the killers, I mean, we already talked about it with Stewart, who's played by Matthew Lillard, who I gotta say, my God, I didn't know, like, because when I think of Matthew Lillard, I think of fucking Shaggy, I think of Shaggy, or I think of like
I,
the
I
Descendants, or
I think SLC Punk,
Fair,
the curve,
yeah, or Without a Paddle, that
uh,
classic.
or or the epic dance scene, and she's all that.
Yeah, actually that is pretty epic. But to see, I didn't know he had this gear, and I just have to say bravo, sir. Like straight up, just bra fucking vo, because when he's laying out, why they did this shit.
Yeah, he takes it up next level so fucking well because the whole movie he's just this goofball friend. So when you find out it's him, it's like holy fuck, this guy's a sociopath.
And the reason for why they did it, you're like, oh God, really? Like this is why?
Well,
And
not they. The reason why, I mean, there is a lot of lore online about Stu being gay for Billy, and Stu just doing it because Billy told him to. But
yeah,
there's also a lot of people believe that Stu just did it out of peer pressure, which is even more horrifying.
and it feels like the movie kind of leans more into the latter as far as like the reasonings behind it. I think you could argue the gay element being there, but just in the remorse that he shows, like, oh, my parents are going to be happy about this,
So
like
my
that.
parents are gonna be so mad.
Which
Can I throw in a little fact?
oh yeah, please.
I'll wrap up. When we wrap up, I'll tell you some like little tidbits. But since we're talking about Stu, the scene where he's sitting down because he's woozy because him and Billy stabbed each other.
Yeah.
Skeet Ulrich, this is completely improvised. Skeet Ulrich throws the phone and it hits Matthew Lillard, which wasn't supposed to happen. And Matthew Lillard improvised, "You hit me with the phone, you dick."
Okay, that's great. Okay, I actually love that scene even more now. But the way that scene plays out is just it's so haunting and it's so fucking cool. And it really does put the exclamation point on Sydney as a character and honestly makes you want to see more of her. I'm gonna throw out a couple.
Though you know, killings are coming if she's there.
Yeah, and that's actually so. As we kind of wrap up here, I want to throw out a few more things here. So one thing, I we mentioned it earlier, the whole scene with that cunty cheerleader in the bathroom. That's not even that leads to an awesome Sydney Ghostface interaction, which I was not expecting. I went, wait, what? He's at the school? And then you kind of go, oh shit, he's at the school. Like,
During the day.
yeah, but that whole interaction kicks so much ass. And it's not even 30 minutes into the movie, which is almost 2 hours, keep in mind. It's like an hour 51 minutes. But not even 30 minutes into the movie, we get Ghostface for Sydney face to face. And it's so cool that we get it that early on. And it kind of rings like a very much like a boxing like a boxing fight. You just get little bits of them here and there until you get to the very end. And it works so well for how they space everything out. Her boyfriend Billy, right?
Yes.
He has this line that I laughed at, but I laughed at because it's the literal textbook definition of gaslighting. He goes,
No.
I have a girlfriend who'd rather accuse me of murder than touch me. And I went, oh fuck off, dude. I said that so quick without even thinking about it. And as soon as he said that shit, I went, oh yeah, that's something only a vile piece of shit would make that comparison to, given her emotional state where she's confiding in this motherfucker. I went, okay, so you're definitely a killer. Like, cool. Like, as soon as he said that, I went, oh yeah, I was already like 99% there. Like, if I was playing fucking Carmen Sandiego, I'd accuse this motherfucker. But when he said that line, I was like, yep.
If I were playing Among Us, he'd be kicked out of the space out of the space station.
Exactly. I was like, oh yeah, fuck you, dude. But that scene in particular is fucking heartbreaking. There's a moment at the 53-minute and 29-second mark, and I timestamped that specifically, where Winkler, the principal, gets killed, and there's this amazing shot of Ghostface and his pupil that I just went, oh, Wes Craven. I'm not gonna lie, I went, if I could get like a little like mini poster of that, I would hang that shit up. Like, it's such a cool shot. And it's actually, I could say, one of my favorite shots in a horror movie, period. Like, I love that shot so much. And the other thing I want to point out, there's a point where they're showing what's her name? Gail sneaks this camera in to this house.
Yeah.
It's on a 30-second delay. In that 30-second delay, the note I literally have here says 30-second delay, Ghostface goddamn. and I won't say where it happens, but when it does, it's chef's kiss. It's so fucking great. There's a death with a TV in here, which I didn't know I needed, but I was like, yep, love that too. Bravo, Wes Craven, you're great at this shit. And the last thing I'll say before I throw it back to you to kind of wrap up and give your final thoughts, there's a point where Sydney's trying to go ahead and get away, and Ghostface has these keys.
And he just jingles them in front of her
he
like
just
a dick.
He dingles them in front of her. I think. Wait, what's my actual? Oh yeah, this is my actual note. Ghostface dangling the keys in front of Sydney is such a dick move. Like, but the way he does it, like he's not even fucking smiling because of fucking mask, but you don't see him smiling.
You could tell that Matthew Lillard's under that mask, just smiling ear to ear.
Yeah, and just taking so much glee in her misfortune. Like oh my god, that scene is just. But yeah, dude, I'm gonna throw it back to you, man. If you want to go over a couple more things that, if we haven't mentioned anything that you really want to get into.
Well, I would just like to say, mention some Easter eggs, mostly for you to know, but anyone that's listening, that's seeing the movie, if they don't know these facts, might be interested. So, Drew Barrymore read for the part of Neve Campbell and got it. Was asked to read for the part, and Wes Craven wanted to give it to her, and she said, no, give me a small role and have me die in the first, give me the Casey role, because people seeing me get, like, most of your actors are all younger people who no one knows. People know me. It will be a big twist if I die in the first scene.
Interesting.
Henry Winkler was supposed to have a much larger role. He was supposed to be on the cover when they released the poster of the movie, and Henry Winkler said, shorten my role and don't put me on the poster. And when Wes Craven said, why wouldn't you want to be on the poster? He said, listen, this movie is about younger kids. If you put me on the poster for a movie, you're not going to attract younger kids to come see this movie.
Damn.
Also little thing. So the scene right before Henry Winkler gets killed, when he hears a noise and goes out into the hallway and sees the janitor.
Yeah.
That is Wes Craven, and if you pay attention, he's wearing the Freddy Krueger green and red striped sweater.
So I actually did catch that. That is actually a note I have. I do have that one.
Those are the biggest Easter egg note, or like unknown facts about Scream. The first one, now I could probably think of more, but those are all the ones that I thought were really interesting, because, like, imagine that, like, Drew Barrymore stars as Neve Campbell and Henry Winkler's got a much bigger role. That movie wouldn't be anywhere close to as impactful as it was.
I mean, I think it's fascinating to think of like a what if world where that happens, because yeah, when I think about how this film was constructed, I gotta say too, the pacing on this movie kicks so much ass. I never felt like this movie was dragging. I was never bored. I was just like, yep, this is just everything I want. I'm having, I don't want to say fun, but kind of having fun, because, like, you know, the deaths in here are pretty fucked. Like, and I mean that as a compliment, but as you see Sydney kind of starting to put the pieces together, and as you, the audience, start to put the pieces together and kind of get to the climax,
I don't consider myself like a crazy or a psycho person, like, necessarily. I'd say I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm normal. There's something about these movies that to me is just fun and amps me up, and I know that's not right. But I not that I'm cheering Ghostface or anything, but there are some parts where I'm just like, okay, I saw what Ghostface just did there. That ruled.
Yeah, no, Ghostface has some, like, there's some clever shit Ghostface does. That it's like, okay, this is only something that someone truly sick would be able to probably put together. So the writer on this is Kevin Williamson, who has a fascinating filmography. So he was an executive producer and writer on Dawson's Creek. He was a writer and executive producer on The Vampire Diaries. He wrote Scream, Scream 2, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, which kicks so much ass. Another Neve Campbell starring film in Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which I fucking adore. Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
That's like, a good movie.
That's so much fucking fun.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, and then he did Cursed with Christina Ricci, which I really like Cursed too. And then he did was an executive producer on the latest Scream and will be an executive producer on Scream 6 coming out next year.
I,
But
I thought he also did Scream 4.
yes,
I
he
think.
was a screenwriter and producer on Scream 4 as well.
Okay, that's so without going off on a huge tangent because we're going to wrap up soon. Scream 1, 2, 4, and 5 have a very organic feel because even though Wes Craven only directed 1, 2, and 4, Kevin Williamson wrote 1, 2, 4, and 5, and there was a complete different writer on 3. So it just 1, 2, 4, and 5 just feel way more organic and like they actually all go together and follow the same basic formula. While number three basically is the difference between like Mad Max or Mad Max or the Road Warrior, and then watching Fury Road right after.
Okay.
Not in a good way.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to get to three because I know some people have even told me like I've softened on three a bit, but the people I know who hate three despise three. So I'm very curious to watch it because yeah. But
It is the worst killer reveal you will see in the entire series. You will throw your arms up in the air and go, "What the actual fuck?"
yeah, I don't know who the killer is either, so I'm really curious to get to it. But getting the final thoughts here. One thing I've talked about on the show for the oh god, how long? 6 years I've been doing this is how incredibly frustrating it is when your time is being wasted. Because I mean, look, money's money. I have to waste my money sometimes on seeing dumb shit. It's part of the gig, but I'm always so happy when someone recommends something to me and I love it in the degree that they're hoping that I do. And Buck was like not pushy or like dickish about it. He's like, dude, I really enjoy these movies. I think you'd enjoy them too. And I gotta be honest, y'all. Not only do I love the first Scream, I love Scream 2 too. I might love Scream 2 more just because of the killer's reason, but that I'll save that for our actual Scream 2 review. But this
I'll
is
agree with. I also agree with you, though it is an unpopular opinion. Uh, technically, Scream 2 did better on like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, but like most diehards say that like Scream 1 was the formula. It's kind of like Scream 2 was a cover, even though it might be a better cover. You have to give props to the original Scream 1 because it's the original, but I love 2, and we can spend hours on the next one getting into Scream 2 because my love for that movie is unmatched.
Yeah, we'll definitely get in that for the second review. But this is something that I was so happy I watched this. Like I was so happy I watched this and finally made the time and the point to watch this movie. I had a blast watching it. I think Nev Campbell
You want to tell everyone my voodoo password?
uh no. I just make a point to watch this. Like if you haven't watched this for some reason, and look, y'all, I've talked about the fact I'm not a big horror guy. Like I just don't like being scared. What do you want from me? But
Wait,
oh
an
yeah,
African American man who doesn't like being scared?
I
That's
know,
unheard of.
I know, right? I know, like white. I don't have a great history of white mass, but that's a whole other podcast. But I got to give Wes Craven a ton of credit. Um, the jump scares in this. There are multiple jump scares. I was like, oh, Wes Craven, you mother, like, especially in Scream 2. Scream 2, it's really bad. Where you're almost expecting a cat to jump out. It's like, motherfucker. But Wes Craven did a great job with jump scares, and they're actually fun. Like I found myself actually going, oh, Wes, you cheeky bugger, you. But this was just a joy to watch. Not like I was super happy after it ended, but
But
I
you're
was
happy that you watched them.
exactly like I was enthralled. I was engaged. As I mentioned, this is almost 2 hours. It fucking flies by. I never felt the length phrasing of the movie. I think Nev Campbell is genuinely transcendent in this movie. I think this is an incredible starring role for her, and actually makes me even more upset that she's not back for Scream 6, considering how great she is
I
in this
could
one. But
do an hour-long podcast about how upset that makes me.
yeah, but that's a whole other thing. Just fucking pay her. Like seriously, come on. She is a goddamn. Anyways, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, I could go on the whole thing, but I was so happy. I'm so happy this movie exists. I'm so happy it's a movie that's still being studied and still influencing people. I'm happy the last Scream did so well that they're doing a sixth one again. Perry Never Campbell, but I'm just happy this is a thing, and I'm so happy I finally watched this. This is a fan fucking tastic. Yeah, I genuinely, I'm sitting here trying to think of a complaint, and I don't really have one.
For the first two, there's nothing really. I mean, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you just aren't all that bright.
Yeah, I was thrilled watching this movie,
And
and
I have been a Scream fan since like they came out in the 90s, and I have to say every time they release a movie, I'm reluctant, and with the exception of Scream 3, every time they release a movie, I see it in theaters and I am the happiest person leaving that movie theater. I'm also always terrified to be in the movie theater, but we will talk about that during the Scream 2 review.
yeah, we'll get to that. But I'm assuming your grade is also a fan of fucking tastic. I'm assuming.
I what?
I'm assuming your grade is also a fan of fucking tastic. I'm assuming.
For 2?
For Scream, that's the original OG.
Oh, 100% A plus.
Perfect. Yeah, I just watched this movie. Like, if you haven't seen this for some reason, so I watched this on Vudu. Thank you, Buck. But I was able to watch Scream 2 on Paramount Plus, and I think most of them are on there. So check Paramount Plus if you have it, but if not, just pay the $3 and fucking rent it or buy it. I,
Buy it on Blu-ray. Be like me. Get the Steel Book. Get the 4K. Get every version there's out. If it were on Betamax, I'd probably buy it there too.
I mean that's fair. I will say I don't go super crazy on. I'm more of a Christmas guy. I've talked about this on the show, but I do like to watch. There are certain horror movies I like to watch each year. So like I've watched. I've done my rewatch of Halloween, OG Halloween. I rewatched it 2018. Watched Paranorman, watch Monster House because those movies kick ass.
Do,
Watch the.
do you watch Stay Alive or See No Evil? Because those
I
are
have
as good as it gets.
Gosh dang, I am not watching either of those. I did watch The Birds for the first time in a while because I'm not gonna lie, man. Quick, quick segue here, everyone. But we went to middle school together, and dude, the Birds make me think of those fucking seagulls from Judkins, and I'm just like, oh my fucking, like that shit.
Okay, so this is gonna sound real weird. Ghostface, not really scared by him, more intrigued, and like it's like, oh yeah, he's just interesting. Like I want to know what is inside that mind. Birds? No, I don't fuck with birds. I ain't watching this movie.
Yeah, no, the birds is legit horrifying. Like the concept that a giant flock of birds could just make you flee your own home is like a terrifying concept. Like it's kind of nuts. But yeah, I'm gonna be adding these to my yearly Halloween rotation. I'm gonna probably wait till Black Friday because I was waiting for the steel books and they're out of stock. But I will be buying the steel book for Scream 1 and 2. Like
Or the
I
box, or buy the box set when it comes out. That should be dropping in December. Not that I've got it in my wish list or anything for anyone
noted.
that wants to get me a birthday or a Christmas gift or anything.
Wink, wink, wink. But yeah, y'all, this was just. I'm so happy I finally sat down and watched this, and I look forward to watching this again next year because fuck yeah, I had a blast with this. But everyone, Scream. What is your favorite Scream movie, people? Let us know in the comments. That's something I would love to actually get people's opinions on.
And what's your least favorite Scream movie, and why is it number 3?
I was waiting for that. I was like, this is a wind up. I know where he's going with this. But Buck, dude, thank you so much for being on. We'll do this again for Scream 2 here before the end of the month. But Yeah, dude, thank you so much for being on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and more importantly, thank you for just without me having to really pitch these. Thank you for just watching them and being like, hey, going out of your way to be like, all right, you've said these are great. I'm gonna watch it, and you watch with an open mind. And I'm not even gonna lie, when you were like messaging me your live reaction, it was like it brought me so much joy. It was like, okay, he gets it. Like why this is why we're good friends, because you get what is good about this. Because if you would have came back and been like, I didn't really care for that, it would have borderline broke my heart.
Yeah, I'll be real, man. I was going in this being like, oh man, I hope this is a good fucking saying it is. And I'll be real, this is a rare case where you actually undersold something, and I'm actually happy you did because I know we're gonna review Scream 2, but my God, I have so much to say about Scream 2. I think that's gonna be even more fun than this review
Well,
was.
it
But
it it was no Black Knight or Pootie Tang,
true.
but it was
What
pretty
is?
good. And anyone that wants to watch, it's not quite as good as the Black Knight with Martin Lawrence, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's no Wild Hogs, but what are you gonna do?
But honestly, what is?
Yes, what is Wild Hogs? But everyone, let us know your favorite Scream movie in the comments. Let us know your least favorite. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at jhunterrealpineapple. You can follow the podcasts, most places you listen to podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneUp, and Samsung Podcasts at The Real Pineapple. You can like both our pages on Facebook at The Real Pineapple, that's REEL Pineapple, and Real Pineapple Games. And you can follow yours truly on Letterboxd at Black Shazam, and you can follow me on TikTok at Black Shazam775. We were going to review all 6 of these, but I'm actually going to be moving here in a couple of weeks, so we're going to have a review for Screams 1 through 3. At some point, we'll go back and do 4, 5, and 6. But Buck, again, dude, thank you so much for making the time. I really appreciate it, man. We will talk Scream 2 here soon. But everyone, thank you so much for your support, y'all. Please stay safe out there, and we will talk to you soon.
And also, don't follow me on social media. It's lame.
Noted. Have a good night, y'all.